I'm back. As you can see, I'm going to start trying to, or not trying, I'm going to start crudely and in a very intermediate style, supplant some audio clips and images and some text into my videos. I figured, you know, if I'm going to shy away from showing my actual record collection, which I am going to do, not going, I've already started doing, I figured I need to have some visual aids. You guys don't want to be staring at my face for more than like 5 seconds. I totally get that. So I'm going to try to intersperse these videos with some content that will be visually pleasing. This is a video medium, YouTube, so why not throw some videos out there? So this is my first shot at it. I use Macs. I have been toying with the idea of getting Final Cut Pro, but Macs come with iMovie. It's free, and iMovie is a very rudimentary editing system, but it actually works pretty well. I've been toying with it and tinkering with it these past few days, and for the purposes of this channel, at least for the time being, I think it serves its purpose rather well. It's going to let me put sound clips in there and provide images and videos, so I'm going to do it. In terms of like what I can get away with, I don't know. Like, I always read these things about YouTube where if you have a sound clip that goes over a certain amount of time, there's like an allotment for every clip you put on there. I don't know. It depends on what label it's on. It depends on this. It depends on that. I don't know the ins and outs of all of that. I have a feeling I'm going to find out. But then again, I see tons of people on YouTube posting full songs. So I think, as far as I can tell, when I read the literature on this, it seems like as long as you are talking in a critical fashion, then it's okay to have these clips. But if you just post the song and there's no criticism, then it can get removed. That's how it looks to me. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to find out, but this channel is all about music criticism and some point in the future film criticism. So it is in a critical light. So I'm hoping that my videos won't get taken down. They might. I don't know. I mean, it could happen. So this is a learning experience. So bear with me. I'm not the greatest editor either. You'll soon find that out. You know, it is what it is. I'm just using the available tools that are here in front of me. But yeah, I think iMovie will be fine. Again, it lets me put sound clips in there, and it lets me post images and video. So hang with me on this one, and we'll see where it goes. I'm going to start this new editing frontier for myself with one of my favorite personal albums, Love's Secret Domain from Coil. And as always, I always talk about these albums from, you know, off the top of my head, so I'm probably going to miss some details here and there. But this, I know enough about this record, I think, and have enough opinions about it where it might be entertaining for you. But as always, leave some comments down there, tell me what I'm missing. I kind of enjoy leaving out bits because people will then comment on these details that I've left out. And then it creates some fun conversation, because one of the things that I don't love about this type of medium, and it's just me being a talking head talking about something over and over again with no discourse with anybody else live. So that's why I like the comments. You guys post comments and then we can have a back and forth. So yeah, if I leave something out, and I will, please like point it out. That'd be great. I'd love to know about it so we can discuss it in the comments. But Coil, Love's Secret Domain. Now Coil is a band that I don't love everything. You know, Coil is one of those bands where I would be hard pressed to see any fan who loves every little thing they've ever done. They've done so many different types of genres and styles, and they've had, well, they're all dead. By the way, this reminds me of something. Coil has become like the industrial Tupac Shakur. Like, these guys have been dead for years, and yet they still have albums coming out every other month. Most of it's just represses and repressings, and let's reissue this and let's reissue that. It's always a reissue and repress. You know, every time I start these videos, these fucking street sweepers come out here and park their car I apologize for the noise. Maybe I'll edit some music over this part. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You won't even know. By the time I edit this, you won't even hear the street sweeper out here pissing me off. Go away. You. Yeah, you. What? You talking to me? You talking to me? Bring it, pal. Anyway, Coil. I don't love everything they've ever done. Love Secret Domain, though, is the one album that I really connect with. And this is another detail about this album. Love Secret Domain is supposed to be an acronym for LSD. People don't understand that. They don't see it. Not that they should see it, but it's supposed to be a take on LSD. This was their acid album. And Jack Dangers was one of the few people to notice that acronym, and he created an acronym for himself when he remixed The Snow, but I'll get to that later. Love Secret Domain, to me, it's the most accessible Coil album. It just is. It's got melodies, it's got verses and choruses, and it doesn't have just that. But of all of the albums in the Coil canon, Love Secret Domain is the one album that exists in a commercial atmosphere for them. Coil was never a commercial band, as we know. They were experimental upon experimental upon experimental. Like, they were all about experimenting. Love Secret Domain, though, is the most accessible album. That's the one that everyone can listen to and enjoy. But it's still experimental. They never did anything that wasn't. LSD, to me, is their greatest achievement. And, you know, that is because it's the most accessible. I like experimental music. I dig it. And I love a lot of Coil stuff. But LSD, to me, is the one time that they were able to bring it all together and create an album that would reach the most amount of people. And I think over time that has proven to be true. Now, Coil, I'm not going to, as I always mention in all my videos, I'm not interested in talking about where all the members of Coil came from. That's for a Coil specific video. I'm doing an album oriented video here with Love Secret Domain. I think most people who end up stumbling upon this video, you're going to already know that Coil it came from the remnants of Throbbing Gristle. Pete Christopherson was in the band. He was a video director. I'm not going to get into all that. You already know that. If you don't know that, just go look up Coil. Okay, I'm going to talk about Love Secret Domain. Now, Love Secret Domain came out in 1991. They'd been around as Coil not quite a decade. They'd been releasing a lot of weird industrial, experimental, out there sounds. A lot of it's really cool. I love the Horse Rotivator album. That's probably my second favorite from Coil. But in the ashes of the rave scene that had been around for a couple of years, I think Coil got really interested in that. I know they were very interested in rave culture, and LSD is their rave album. Coil's interest in dance music reached its apex with Love Secret Domain. And as a lover of electronic dance music for years, I think Love Secret Domain holds its own with some of the greatest dance records of all time. It's not a dance record per se, but it's got enough dance elements on it where I think it can peacefully coexist with some of the finest dance records of the 90s. And for those of you out there like me who love the 90s and recognize the 90s for arguably being the greatest decade for electronic dance music in history, to put Love Secret Domain way up there in the top of the list is saying something. It's a great record. It really is. It's a phenomenal album. It has a great single attached to it. And I'm going to get into that. So Love Secret Domain in Europe came out on Torso, and here in the United States it came out on Wax Trax. We all know Wax Trax. We all love Wax Trax. I loved Wax Trax back in the 80s. So when Love Secret Domain came out on Wax Trax here in the States, it was a very exciting thing. It was just cool to see this kind of album come out on Wax Trax. Those of you back then who were buying records and liked Wax Trax knew and understood that if something came out on Wax Trax, you just bought it. You didn't think about it. You bought it on faith. If you saw the Wax Trax logo on that record jacket, you bought it. At least I did. I loved everything Wax Trax. And LSD came out on Wax Trax. The one thing that kind of sucked about Love Secret Domain is it didn't come out on vinyl here in the United States. It did come out on a test press. Wax Trax in the early 90s started veering away from pressing vinyl, but they were still doing test pressings. I do have a test pressing of Love Secret Domain on Wax Trax from that time period. It's actually a really good pressing. It's better than the pressing that came out on Torso Records in Europe. But it was an abbreviated version. If you bought the CD version, it had more tracks than the vinyl had. You know, the markets were just veering away from vinyl at that time, and they were putting extra tracks on CDs and cassettes to entice people to spend more money for CDs, even though CDs sounded far inferior to vinyl. That's just what the industry was doing. So in recent years, and I'll talk about this in a couple minutes, but Wax Trax and Infinite Fog, another label, they've been re-releasing Love Secret Domain with all the extra tracks that were only on the CD, and releasing further unreleased demos and mixes too. So it's been a really fun album to be into these past few years. They've finally been re-releasing the album, because yeah, the Torso vinyl that came out in Europe, that was selling for a couple $100. I know that for a fact because I had a couple of copies of it and I sold it 4 or 5 years ago. I think I got a couple $100 for it. So it was, you know, it's one of those albums that is revered and loved in the industry. People love this album for good reason. So, but yeah, they've recently been re-releasing the album to reflect all of the tracks that were on this album on the CD version. Because the CD version, these tracks weren't tacked on at the end. They were interspersed with the rest of the album. So when you bought the vinyl, if you heard the CD version and then you put the record on, you're like, hey, where are those 4 or 5 tracks that I just heard on the CD? Well, they're not on the vinyl. It sucks. So, I mean, it doesn't suck. I mean, having a record of this quality is never a thing that sucks. It's just it always drove me nuts to know that these songs were out there and they weren't on a record anywhere. So and those vinyl copies were just missing so much good stuff, because those songs that were only on the CD were so good too. Like Things Happen. Things Happen is a great song. I'm trying to think, what was her name? The singer, she was a poet. Her name was Annie Anxiety. Annie Anxiety. Things Happen was not on the original vinyl version, and it's a great song. Just weird. Just a very odd track.
Daddy, do you have a cigarette for me? I think maybe it's getting late. Maybe time is running out.
Anxiety is a poet. I don't know if she's still alive. But yeah, they left that off the vinyl probably because it wasn't really a dance track. It wasn't something they probably envisioned any DJ playing, because that's who they made vinyl for during that period of time. They made it for DJs mainly. The rest of the album's very electronic and pretty dancey, but that one wasn't. So maybe I can understand why they left it off. But these recent reissues have been putting it on the vinyl, which is great. But LSD exists in a very unique place in the Coil canon because it's unlike anything they've ever done. I can almost understand where a lot of Coil fans, like hardcore Coil devotees, will not like LSD because it's so different. It's my favorite album from them. A lot of Coil I just flat out can't listen to. I think it's a lot of their stuff actually I find is a little bit lazy. You know, I know I'm going to get slapped around from Coil fans for that, but I think that's what Coil wanted to do. I don't think Coil was interested in having people love everything they did. How boring would that be anyway? Bands should always be testing their limits, and sometimes it doesn't work. And not everything Coil did worked. Doesn't mean I love them any less. They experimented, and I will always have deep respect for Coil when it comes to their approach to music in general. They just wanted to push the envelope, and I don't know that they were that concerned about whether or not it worked for everybody. And I really, really respect that about any band that does that. Coil is one of the best that ever did that. And again, going back to Throbbing Gristle, the kind of sounds that they were able to conjure are still unparalleled 40 plus years later. And also, let's not forget Chris and Cosey, another band that emerged from the ether of Throbbing Gristle. Once Throbbing Gristle broke up, Chris and Cosey emerged, and Chris and Cosey, amazing, amazing music from this band. I'll have to talk about them at some point as well. But back to LSD. LSD, I would highly recommend, in terms of the reissues that have been getting pumped out lately, the Infinite Fog one is good because it has more stuff on it. Unfortunately, the pressing's not as good in my experience. I bought the triple LP version, and it basically has all those tracks that were originally only on the CD, and then it also has some demos and mixes that were never released. It's cool to just have those. I wouldn't say the sound quality is fantastic. It's hard to tell if it's the pressing or the actual audio quality. Sounds like it's a little of both in my experience. Still worth picking up. If you're a big LSD fan like I am, I'd still pick it up. If you're going to buy a repress, though, I would highly recommend you get the Wax Trax one. Wax Trax put out their own reissue last year. It only has the tracks that were on the CD, but it's great. It sounds phenomenal. It's basically the full hour-long CD version on 2 records. And it's, or as some people say, vinyls on 2 different vinyls. I've already talked about this in the past. Vinyls is not a word, all right? Stop it. But it's a great pressing. I really enjoy the Wax Trax press. Get that one. It's a better package too. The quality of the jacket is better. I would highly recommend, if you're going to get one, I know it's going to be hard to resist to get the Infinite Fog one. I mean, if you're a big fan, you already have them both anyway. And get them both if you haven't. But if you're only going to get one of the 2, I would recommend getting the Wax Trax one. It just sounds better. It's a better package. And it's Wax Trax. You're supporting Wax Trax. I have nothing against Infinite Fog. But yeah, their reissue, they did this reissue campaign where they've got like 100 different colors and different versions. That always turns me off a little bit. You're veering away from what people want, which is the music. Offering all these different versions just gives the sharks reason to spend money and then jack prices on people and flip stuff, which I'm not a big fan of. But, if people want to spend huge money on a record, then they'll do it. I mean, there are reasons why flippers exist, right? We can say fuck you to the flippers and not give them our money, but we still give them our money. That's why they exist. That's a different video. I would recommend getting the Wax Trax one. It's a very good pressing. Now, my favorite tracks on Love's Secret Domain are Things Happen, The Snow, Window Pane, of course. The whole album is great. It really, you've got to have the full CD album experience. That's why the Wax Trax version is so cool, because it does give you the full album. And the pressing on the Wax Trax one is good. You have to have that. Now, the singles that got released from Love's Secret Domain were Window Pane. That was the opening single, and then The Snow came after that. I think that's how it went. The Window Pane single is okay. It only had a couple of different versions. It basically has the album version on one side and then the Astral Paddington mix on the B side. Both mixes are very similar. It's not even necessarily a track that gets remixed. It's a little slower. I thought it was a missed opportunity, though. It can be remixed, and they didn't choose to do it very well. The mixes you get are pretty substandard. It's not a great single. It's a great song, and very cool video, by the way. But the mixes are not that great. On the A side, you basically get the album version. The B side, you get the Astro Paddington mix, which is very, very similar to the album version.
See the rain, see the bird's eye, see the brain, Asian cities rise again. See microscopic, see world view, see the future leaking through.
For me, the ultimate single experience you can have from LSD is The Snow. The Snow is just generally one of my favorite singles of all time for one very simple reason: Jack Dangers. And I know I've been harping about this for a couple of years, and I keep threatening to do a Meat Beat Manifesto video, but I will. I love Meat Beat Manifesto. Jack Dangers is bar none one of my favorite electronic producers of all time. He is absolutely amazing. I would highly, highly recommend that any of you watching this video have never heard Meat Beat Manifesto. Do yourself a favor and go discover them now. Check them out. Doesn't matter where you start, but I would highly recommend starting from the beginning because his sound definitely evolved. But Coil brought in Jack Dangers to remix The Snow, and his mixes are phenomenal. Those of you who have seen the video for The Snow, you already know that they use the Jack Dangers mix, one of the Jack Dangers mixes for that video. It's a better version. One of his mixes is not better than the album version, but I think the video version that they use is the better version of the song. It's the best version of the song. On the Snow single, you get a couple of mixes from Coil themselves. You get the album version, or a slightly extended album version actually, and you get two Jack Dangers mixes. Now the fun of the Jack Dangers mix is that he calls them Answers Come in Dreams, and I've never used acid personally. I've never tried acid in my life. So as an 18-year-old buying that record, you see Answers Come in Dreams and you just think that's the name of the album. But then I started making a connection. Oh, that's another acronym. It's acid, right? Unless I'm wrong, someone correct me. But at the time, I remember everyone knowing that Love's Secret Domain stood for LSD. I don't know that everyone knew that Jack Dangers' Answers Come in Dreams mixes was meant to mean acid. Back me up here, people. It has to, right? Jack saw that. Jack knew it. Jack was smart. He saw it. He named his remixes that, and good for him. His mixes are phenomenal, man. I think if you like Love's Secret Domain, you've got to have these singles along with it. They are absolutely necessary companion pieces to the album. You've got to have them. Now, The Snow came out here in the United States on Wax Trax. It has like a blue cover, just a plain blue cover. And then in Europe, it came out with a picture cover. The track listing is exactly the same. I do have both copies just because I've stumbled across them over the years. They both are good pressings. So if you're gonna search out for that 12-inch, I wouldn't recommend one over the other. If you need a picture sleeve, you want to seek out the Euro one. If you don't care about that, you just want a plain blue generic cover, you get the US one. Either way, you're getting a pretty solid pressing. The window pane 12-inch, I don't know. I would, if you love this album, you're gonna have it. I don't know that I would recommend that one. No, I know I just said you're gonna want to absolutely have both. Let me refine that. Let me revise that. You want The Snow. The Snow is absolutely required buying. Window pane, okay. If you love the album, you're gonna go buy it anyway, right? But I don't think it's a requirement. The mixes aren't that drastically different, where they offer you something totally different. The Jack Dangers mixes, yes, very just excellent mixes. They are a little drone-like, they're repetitive, but a lot of Love's Secret Domain is like that, right? It's repetitive, but in some really beautiful ways. Now, I think for me, as I get toward wrapping up this video, for me, the standout track on Love's Secret Domain is Dark River. Dark River is a track that I have listened to many, many times in my life. I think it is an unsung and vastly underrated ambient track. One of the most beautiful ambient songs I've ever heard. Really stirs up some heavy emotion for me when that... I've listened to that song over the years where I've gone through some really heavy shit personally, and when I hear that song to this day, it really conjures up some strong emotions. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. I arguably would say that it's Coil's finest moment. You take all of the many vast hours of Coil music, if I had to pick a song that moves me the most out of the entire Coil catalog, it would probably be Dark River. Dark River is just a beautiful, beautiful piece of art. Can't recommend it highly enough. Check this out. It's right in the middle of the album, so you don't want to. I wouldn't recommend listening to the song alone, all by itself, isolated. Listen to it in the context of the album, but when the song comes, I guarantee it's going to hit you hard in all the right ways. It's a song that really, of all the experimentation that Coil dabbled in, when you hear songs like Dark River, you understand how pointed they could be, how focused they could be, how beautiful they could be. It makes you wonder if they had ever put out a full album of just stuff like that, what they could accomplish. But that's not who they were. They were about creating these pastiches of sound and, you know, bringing you in and almost kind of pushing you back and repelling you, then bringing you back, pushing you back again, bringing you back. Coil was great about that. They wanted to always test you, and that's what ultimately I really love about Coil, is they were about challenging their listeners, but then reminding you of their humanness, their humanity, bringing you back in, and then pushing you out, repelling you again, challenging what you want to hear or what you're used to hearing, but then pulling you back. They were masters at this. I really love Coil for that. Like I mentioned before, Coil's one of those bands where they weren't necessarily interested in always keeping the listener close by, having them agree with everything they did. That's not who they were. They wanted to always be challenging people, and they did. But with Love's Secret Domain, that was the one instance in their career, I think, where they were interested in making an album that appealed to the most amount of people. And they succeeded on a massive level. As I stated in the beginning of the video, Love's Secret Domain is one of my favorite albums. It just is. And there are still moments on it where I have a hard time getting through it, and I love that. You know, music should always be challenging us, even if we've heard it a million times. You should still stop and listen to something, and if it challenges you, that's good. I mean, who wants to listen to music that everybody loves? How fucking boring is that? Coil always challenged their listeners, and there's some definite challenging aspects of Love's Secret Domain. But yeah, it's the most accessible, palatable album for the masses that they ever did. It's still not saying it's, you know, like a sugary sweet pop album. It's not. It's far from that. But in terms of how commercially successful or commercial that they ever wanted to be, they are more so with Love's Secret Domain than any other thing they ever did. And it works. It makes you wonder how many, you know, if they had done this, if they've tried this again, what would have happened if they had tried this again. But that wasn't what they were about. They wanted to try it once and move on, and they did. They were like, okay, been there, done that. We tried that. It worked. Now let's move on to the next thing. I still feel though that Love Seeker Domain is the gem, is Coil's gem, is their best album. And I know a lot of you are going to yell at me and fight me on that one. And please do. Tell me why I'm wrong. For me personally, Love Seeker Domain is Coil's finest moment. Get the snow, maybe get window pane. Check it out first, but get the snow. It's required. You need that one. Absolutely required buying for Love Seeker Domain. You need to have that sitting next to that album in your collection. It's got to be there. And that's my Coil video. Go ahead and check out, be sure you check out other Coil stuff. Give it some kind of context, because Love Seeker Domain, if you just listen to that album, I think a lot of you will enjoy it. But I think it's important to always have context for these bands. Listen to what they did right before then, right after that, and understand their sensibilities they went into making Love Seeker Domain, because that was a very small window of their career. Nothing they ever did other than that sounds like Love Seeker Domain. It's their one album that kind of stands apart from everything else on multiple levels. And if you listen to the other stuff, you'll understand why. Okay, so that's my Love Seeker Domain video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the interspersing of images and sound clips and stuff work. They probably won't. But at least you'll have some sort of visual aid, since I'm not holding up records right now. You'll see what it looks like. You'll hear some tunes, and you won't have to look at my ugly face the entire time. So let me know what you think of the edits. They're going to be crude. I think they're going to get better as I go. Like I mentioned before, I might end up getting Final Cut Pro in the future, but for now, I'm going to keep it simple and just focus on the music. So until next time, thank you for watching my LSD video, and I will see you soon.